talking a little bit about your time at Morningside College before you came over to Nebraska, how you were 3 or 4 in point after attempts while handling the kickoff duties. And you knocked 35 of 59 kickoffs for touchbacks. And the biggest thing for me, I was at the Illinois game last year, and watching that first kickoff go back into the end zone was actually really exciting for us as Husker fans, because it was a while before he had anyone who had a foot big enough to do that. So, tell us a little bit about kind of the focus that you guys have going on right now with special teams, especially the specialists, because I know that last year, and I'll play this real quick clip, all right? And watch this, and then you gave a reaction, but I want to hear your reaction
when
currently.
The coach says it's not the special teams, it's the specialists. How do you guys receive that message?
We receive it as like he's just challenging us to be better because he expects more out of us, which he should. We're a D1 program. We should be doing things, executing them the right way. And when we don't do that, you can understand how it's frustrating for him that way.
All right. So, it is. And it's like, saying about the specialists, and that includes, place kickers and point after attempts and field goal unit as well. And you could hear the ESPN sound in the background there from somebody's phone. So obviously the minute you said that, somebody sent it off to ESPN for breaking news. That's obviously what was happening there. Tell us a little bit more about that. Like, what are you guys doing in the offseason right now to get better in those areas? Because special teams, let's be honest, was one of the maligned, forces, we'll call it, in the Husker game last year, and a lot of it going 3-9. Sometimes we were just one score behind. So what are you guys doing this year to improve, and what does it look like with some of the new kids coming in?
So a big thing that we did over this last offseason is obviously we took full advantage of the transfer portal, picking up guys like Brian Buschini, who was the #1 punter in the FCS, and Timmy Bleekrode, who's a great field goal kicker out of Furman, up in South Carolina or Georgia, wherever. Yeah, South Carolina. And so I would say that with the new staff changes, with Coach Busch kind of taking the reins here, and all the new changes we've made, I'd say that we're a lot more bought in this year, because we kind of have to be. I mean, after such a disappointing showing really all around last year for the special teams area, I felt like it was a really big needed change in not only mentality, but in energy in the room. It's already showing to be a lot better. Like there's no negativity around the room right now. We're just, we can really only go up from where we are, and we're trying to just be an ascending special teams room this whole year. We're trying to stack days of being great every day.
Yeah, and right now you guys are kind of in what did you call it? What kind of week are you guys in? You're in
a discretionary week. We went really hard for 5 weeks, going heavy lifts and running in the afternoon. And then you do the position work with your position groups. So like we've been kicking in like 6 a.m. to 7, then we lift, and then we go run later on in the day. But so they gave us this week off, and then we'll go back for a couple more weeks. I think we get one more discretionary week, and then we're straight into fall camp and then off to Ireland.
Okay. And you were talking about just a second ago, you said something about working with the specialists and just kind of going off into your position group. And that is something that I wanted to touch on real quick. What's it like for you this year with, having a special team coach in Bill Busch compared to last year when you had Mike Dawson? He was an outside linebackers coach as well. So it wasn't his complete focus. And, it seemed like special teams was an area that we really needed to have somebody focused on. The year before that, it was an analyst. So how is it having Bill Busch around right now, and just having somebody who's specifically focused on Husker special teams? But not only that, he's had success there in the past.
Yep. Definitely not to discredit Coach Dawson at all, though. Coach Dawson can't control the way we kick or the way that we punt. He did his best to create a game plan to make us successful. And if you think about the way that we didn't have a field goal blocked other than the Oklahoma game, which was just kind of like chance of fate there. He can put in the perfect game plan, but if the players aren't in to execute it, it's not going to work out. And then Coach Busch, having him there around all the time is really beneficial, because he's got some connections to other guys that have been able to kind of help us out a lot. And we've been working a little bit here and there, like talking to Brett Maher, getting his feedback and stuff like that. Alex Henry comes around and talks to us. just to kind of give us like a little tips here and there. And I know Sam Cook has been talking to the punters quite a bit, which Sam Cook, like almost a 20-year NFL vet, just retired this last year. Easily one of the greatest punters to ever play. So having Coach Busch, he's definitely, since it's like his main priority, I'm glad that he takes it so seriously. The accountability is huge to him, and he makes sure that we're there, we're on time, we're doing our stuff right, and we're getting everything executed properly.
That seems to be a theme with a lot of the kids that I talked to today, whether it's like Chancellor Brewington, I talked with Kevin Williams Jr. All these guys seem to have a theme right now of accountability is a word that I really, really hear a lot of from them. And what's that like right now? Like, because and I don't want to say it's a buzzword, but I think that, it's one of those words that like exists in this world for a reason, right? Accountability is something that I preach it to my children, my bosses preach it to me. My parents used it for me, right? And it's one of those words that's used across all, facets of life. But I'm hearing it more and more from Husker players and people out there. And again, I don't want to talk about the past as much really in this conversation moving forward, but now, like, what's that like? I mean, you set accountability. What does that look like? Like, what kind of accountability are they having for you here? Like, is it just the workouts, the way you eat? Is it, film study? Like, tell me a little bit more about that.
Obviously, when you're in the facility, like, accountability is one of those things that just comes naturally in the fact that, like, they give you the schedule, they tell you what you have to do. It's the stuff that it's the stuff that you should be doing when the coaches aren't around or your teammates aren't around to push you. If you're not making the right decisions on the weekends, if you're not making the right decisions when you're eating, or like stuff like that, it's more self accountability than team accountability, because if you're not doing your 1/11th on the field, there's no way we're gonna be able to be any better than we were last year. We need all 11 guys on the field bought in, accountable for their jobs and what they're supposed to do to actually be able to facilitate like a winning season this year.
So I know that when you and we've texted back and forth a little bit. We actually got on a phone call one day. I was headed into Lowe's to do a little landscape shopping, and we talked for a little while on the phone and everything. And one of the things that we talked about was that you in no way plan on laying down as far as in the competition for the kicking job as well, because I know you've had some success at other levels in like point after attempts and things like that. So what are you doing to push the guys that are theoretically ahead of you on the depth chart, to make them better and possibly get yourself an opportunity out there?
Competition is the healthiest thing you can have in an organization. If your job is handed to you, you're not going to progress at all. So I'm going into this season thinking that nobody's job is safe, because really it's not. You never know when the next guy's going to go down, or two, you never know when you're just going to end up like waking up one day and being like, well, like this is going to be me now. And then you grind and you work towards those things. And we all kick together. We all push each other. Everything's a competition. And like, it doesn't matter if there's coaches there watching or not, whether you're having a good day or a bad day. And a lot of the guys will shoot you the crap about it if you're not having a good day. And they're like, oh, well, that 32-yard line sure is getting you today. And so if you're not getting at each other and getting in each other's head, you're not going to progress anybody else anymore. Because I read some of the tweets last year after games, and these fans are ruthless. So if you let them get to you like that, if you're letting your buddies get to you, just imagine what somebody that's sitting behind a phone all day brewing up some mean things to say going to do to you.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that the Twitter could probably be one of the most toxic places for anybody to reside. I'm generally a pretty positive guy on Twitter. You see my tweets. We follow each other, and the biggest thing I used to always hear is don't look at the mentions, right? Don't go into your mentions. But and to me, it's okay though, because it sounds to me like, and we'll bring this word again, it sounds to me like you're accountable for the way that you have been, and you're also accountable for the way that you want to be. And it's one of the things I want to know. Oh, look at this. We got a key stat up there that you ranked tied for 15th nationally in 2022 with 63.7 yards per kickoff. and that you booted 38 touchbacks in your 62 kickoffs. Now let's see here. I gotta do the math so that I know exactly what your percentage was, unless you want to tell me that, So
yeah, it's like 7% ish.
Yeah, I was like, or 61, 62%, something like that.
Yeah.
But okay, so when you're on the field, how much of that is actually a real stat? They threw that up there. How much is that a real stat as compared to how much of that is game plan as well? Because there may be times where you don't want to kick it into the end zone, right? Like, maybe come up a little bit short for coverage purposes and whatnot. And we won't bring up the, kicking it to the wrong side of the field against Michigan State or anything like that as far as the punt goes. That wasn't you. Let's be clear, that was not you.
I didn't kick any field goals and I didn't do any punting last year.
There you go. And I think you had even mentioned at one point that you were marked down as the backup kicker, but like when it came down to needing the backup kicker, they went with a guy behind you for some reason. So let's not. Brennan just kicked the ball into the end zone last year. He was our Sebastian Janikowski. Okay, yep. So and now you're like 6'3", 240. So don't eat too many cheeseburgers or you'll look like Sebastian Janikowski. So
they call me an absolute unit when it comes.
Well, yeah, good for you. So one of the things though, like talk a little bit about that strategy too, because there are times obviously you want to kick it in the end zone. You heard the crowd at the spring game when the very first kickoff went into the end zone, right? There was a huge cheer for that, right? Like it's kind of like a big inside joke that everybody gets with Nebraska fans, but you're not always looking to do that. So maybe talk a little bit about how you're approaching that strategy and when that strategy comes into play.
So a couple things, like the wind in the stadium, it's a confusing wind, but like we kick in there every practice, so we pretty much understand what we're getting into. If we have a really strong wind in our face, and I'm pretty certain that we're not gonna be able to make it to the zone, or we're only gonna be one or two deep. We just kind of go to get the ball as high as we can, get as much hang time under it so that we can get down there. I mean, I had 2 or 3 kickoffs last year that were 6 or 7 deep, and they'd try to take it out. I mean, we'd get them down at like the 8-yard line, so they're too stupid. They don't try that again. But, it was one of those where, it's last season. I like to think that like I did really well, but at the same time, the whole accountability thing, I think that I should be somewhere in the 80% touchback range, because I just feel like from last year to this year, I've made a really big step just in the off season, working with Brett Maher and stuff like that, and getting the tips and tricks from him on how to hit a cleaner ball. I've only been kicking for like 4 or 5 years now total.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like last year was just pure leg strength. So once I start to facilitate some actual like routine and skill into it, then I'm hoping I can be hopefully in the top 10 in the nation for that.